Hare Krishna. To best work with the mind, first work on the mind. Whenever we use any tool, any gadget, we know that it requires some basic maintenance. And if that basic maintenance has not been done, then it doesn't function as well, and even to make it function at a basic level takes more trouble and time. So at a very simple level, if we are using an axe, then the axe has to be used for cutting, but it cannot cut if it has become blunted, and so it needs to be sharpened. And the same applies not just to the external devices that we use, but also to our internal mechanism, that is the mind. The mind is also like a device. It is a psychological device that we use for interfacing with the world. And when the mind is alert and sharp, where it is clear of infatuations and preconceptions and obsessions, then it facilitates clear perception and focused action. But just as when an axe is repeatedly used, it becomes blunted. So similarly, when we use the mind to focus on, to do things, to perceive things, to analyze things, to channelize for executing things, then by this the mind slowly becomes blunted. And when the mind becomes blunted, then we can't function properly. So we all experience this when we say that, oh, I'm mentally tired now. Now what do we exactly mean when we are mentally tired? It's simply, mental tiredness is not exactly like physical tiredness, wherein we need to work on taking some food for rejuvenating ourselves physically. So the mind is subtle, and so there is no gross food for it, but there is a corresponding food that can nourish us internally. Or instead of the food metaphor, going back to the axe metaphor, we can say that we need something to sharpen our mental axis, and that sharpening is actually connection with a higher reality, is meditation on a higher reality. In fact, the higher the reality, the quicker is the sharpening that happens. Because essentially when we say the mind becomes blunt, what does it mean? It means that it gets caught in one thing without being able to see the connection of that thing with other things, and it doesn't move nimbly from that one thing to the next thing. But when the mind is connected with the higher reality, as we say idiomatically, to see the big picture. So to be able to see the big picture in small things, we need to focus on seeing the big picture primarily for some time. So when meditation centered on remembrance of Krishna is what enables us to to see the big picture, in fact to see the biggest picture, to see the highest reality. The highest reality is of course Krishna. So when we remember Krishna, then by such remembrance, our mind, the rust or the rust that has been formed in the mind, that exhaustion that has happened, that gets dissipated. And that's why to best work with the mind, we need to first work on the mind. The Bhagavad Gita talks about various measures for dealing with the mind, but one of the most consistent recommendations that it gives throughout is to fix the mind in Krishna. It says that that's why the Bhagavad Gita talks about how manmana bhav mad bhakto madhyaji mam namaskuru mam evaishyasi yuktvaivam atmanam mat parayana. So with your whole and soul dedicated to me, you will come to me, Krishna says. When we fix the mind on him. So by fixing the mind on Krishna, we not only attain Krishna as the ultimate destination, but we stay connected with Krishna even during our transition, during our journey towards the destination. And that way our mind stays sharpened, and that way we can always stay focused, alert, focused and productive. So every day when we start off, if we begin the day by working first on the mind, clearing the mental cobwebs and clearing ourselves of the tiring effects that come because of various issues, and we fix the mind, fix our consciousness on Krishna, then that will enable us to deal with various issues in a far more productive way than what would be otherwise possible if we are trying to work with a blunt mind. That's why first work with the mind, then we can work best with the mind. Thank you.